Welcome to the Physical OSINT section. If you are on a red team and your team is planning on how to approach a building, or if you are just an employer who's curious about the bad actors methodology of breaking into companies, this section is for you. Although we have slightly covered some topics like Twitter, geolocation and Snapchat map, there are a few more tools in our kit. Basically, we would start off with tools like Google, Bing, or Apple Maps to first check the area of our interest, and then, since these, depending on the area, are not as often updated, we go to Snapchat or Twitter for more recent pictures and videos. Scoping out a location on Instagram is also a semi-good idea, but we have experienced people posting and reposting old pictures there, so these might act as a noise in our investigation. Alright, I hope you are as excited as I am, and I will see you in the next video where we uncover Google Maps and Google Earth. Welcome back. Let's first establish what is considered physical OSINT. Physical OSINT involves gathering intelligence about real-world locations, buildings, infrastructure using publicly available information. And in this and the next lectures, we'll dive into online maps. These will provide us with a preview of a location without having to go there in person. The first place we go to when performing a physical OSINT is pretty much Google Maps. The reason for that is they are quite advanced when it comes to the quality, and thanks to the quantity of satellites we get access to more locations. However, you want to keep in mind that Bing also offers a function called 3D flyover, which is something like Google Earth and might come in handy in our investigation. So without further ado, let's start off with Google Maps. When you open it, you should be presented with a default map type like the one you see on the screen. However, this one does not seem as useful as the satellite one. To change it, you simply click on layers in the left lower corner, and then it will automatically switch it. However, you can also choose between traffic, transit, biking and some more map options. Now, from far away, it won't help us much in the investigation. Nevertheless, if we zoom in on any buildings, let's for example do this one, from the top we can see characteristics. This could be how it's shaped, where the parking lot is, where the main road is, and so on and so on. Now, if you look at the bottom of the screen, you'll be able to see when this particular picture has been taken. In this case, we get a picture from Airbus from 2024, meaning this is a recent one. Also, the same thing will apply when we move to Google Earth, Bing, and so on. This is important as sometimes we might come across an outdated picture which can create noise in our investigation. However, sometimes, on the other hand, if we are aware of it, it turns out to be convenient, as this can help us picture how a building or a venue has changed over time. Alright, we have gotten a bit of theory. Let's now examine a building, and for this task let's do maybe Microsoft and let's say San Antonio, Texas, and then we'll do the first one. Right, so what can we see here? The building we are looking at is the white one in the middle, which is labeled Microsoft. The building from this point of view seems to be somewhat mirrored, where we get the same structure on both of the sides. We can see that we have one parking lot here and one parking lot here. Now, we could take a guess that one is dedicated for the staff, whereas the other one is dedicated for the visitors. What else can we see? On both sides of the building there's something that resembles an industrial ventilation. And if we zoom in and keep zooming in, we can see that there are some cars parked next to it. However, we can only spot two cars here, which could mean that the entrance there is rather restricted. Then if we zoom out, in between the parking lot and the ventilation system there appears to be a water container. And what makes me curious is if this area, like the ventilation and the water container, is actually on the same floor as the parking lot, and the only thing that separates is some sort of a fence right here. We could in theory look at the shadows, but then we don't really know what time of the day the satellite picture was taken at, and it would be a gamble we don't want to take. And while we are at it, if you look at the right lower corner, we can see a little orange human being. Now if we click on it, some blue lines should pop up on the streets. Also in the middle at the bottom of the screen we get an explanation with what these are. And the lines are the street view images, the dashed line are the photo paths, and the blue dot is something they called a photosphere, however there is none to be seen around here. Now let's give it a try and see if we can see this building from the Rogers Road. So I'll click anywhere here and we should be moved to the street view, and let's now look around. Now in the left lower corner, if you hover over the little map image, you can see that it will show you in what direction you are looking at. So for me the building should be in front of us, and right now we are unable to see it. So let's move on the map and we can see that it is, but it appears to be on a lower level. Now if we keep moving we should be able eventually to see something, and we can see that there's another road that's in between us and that building, but that road is probably a private road since it's behind a fence. So let's maybe move a little bit to the right and we can wait for it to load. And we can see that the whole building is on a lower floor. Now, what can we do with it? There's another fantastic application which is called Google Earth. So let's just open Google and let's type in Google Earth, enter, and then we'll go with the first one. And it should take a minute to load, so let's give it some time. Now that it's loaded, what is Google Earth? Google Earth pretty much gives us the ability to view various locations and places in a 3D kind of perspective. When you first open it, you can just see the Earth, or if you just zoom out. And the way you use it is rather simple. You can hold the left mouse button and move around to see other places. You can use scroll to zoom in and zoom out. And you can use the search bar in the left upper corner to search for a particular place. So I will just go to our first page. I will leave the street view. I will copy the address with the copy address button. And let's remove this and paste it here. Click enter. And it should zoom in on that particular place. Now, we can already see that it looks slightly different than the previous picture. If we look at the bottom left, we can see that this one was taken in 2023. Now let's zoom in on the part that was in our interest. So if we keep zooming in, we can see that it already looks a bit different because first off, the cars from this parking lot are missing, and the two cars that were next to the ventilation system are also missing. Now the important part is how can we rotate the image? If I hold the scroll and move around, you can see that we are being shown the 3D view of this place. Now, in a penetration test where you are conducting a physical OSINT, you'd also look for entry points around the building. For example, where the CCTV cameras are, where the entrance is, and so on and so on. Now, I know lots of people that use Google Maps but have not yet used Google Earth. So I encourage you to go try out these tools yourself, and once you do, progress to the next lecture where we dive into Google's competitor, Bing, which now seems a bit funny considering it's owned by Microsoft and we just had a look at Microsoft's building. Alright, so that's it for now and I will see you in the next lecture. Welcome back. I hope you wrapped your head around Google's mapping tool as it's time for Bing. As mentioned in the previous lecture, they got the normal maps with the option to switch to satellite view, but they also have got the 3D flyover mode, which is something similar to the Google Earth we introduced you to. First of all, to switch to the satellite view, we hover over the map icon on the right, and then we can click on satellite, we can do bird's eye, and we can do street side. So let's click on satellite, and now it's similar to the satellite view from Google. Here also the idea is similar. In the search bar we can type in the address or the building name and it will let us choose from what they have indexed. So let's first of zoom in somewhere else and maybe let's type in Microsoft building, and then we had a nice building we've seen the other day. I think it was number 37. Okay, let's try this one. It should zoom in. Oh yeah, it's the one in Washington. And the other day it looked interesting enough, so let's give it a go. So what can we tell from this picture? It is partially surrounded with trees, and on the other side there is some buildings, some football field, and so on and so on. Now, if we slightly zoom in, we can see that at the top side we got a few semi-trucks, and we can see that there's a parking lot in front of the building. If this is the entrance, I would believe, but we don't need to make any assumptions, as we can just use the street view. As you can already see, the street is highlighted in blue, which means we can get the street view from there. So I'll click, for example, right here to see the street view from here. And also the thing with this kind of street view from Bing, it is much worse, usually it's much worse quality than the Google one, but it still is a good way to have and get some insight. So yeah, it appears to be the entrance. Then on the right side, this is yet another picture, and we can see that this one should have been taken on another occasion. It's from 2024, however, we cannot see the cars in this shot. Now, similarly to Google, if we click on the expand button, we can see in which direction we're looking at. And for now, it is not in the right one. Here, we can see this is the building number 37. So let's hide it for now. And if we were to, let's say, if we are interested in the top side because there is no street view over there, so it could indicate that there's different kind of security measures as there is no street over there. So what can we do with it? First off, let's close it for now and let's try to zoom in and have a look what is here. We can see some umbrella looking objects, whereas there are some semi-trucks on the left and there's one car also there. So now let's say we want to get into this building from this side and we are interested in what kind of security measures they have there. As we can't really see it from the street view unless maybe we have a look right here. Let's just click and see if we can have a little peek. If it's actually umbrellas over there. Yes, this appear to be actual umbrellas, but we are still unable to see what's in front of them. For that purpose, let's just close this one. And what we are interested in now is the bird-eye mode. To access it, we just go to the little icon here and we switch to the bird's eye view. Now we can see the quality is much different now, and even if we move around, it could show us different kind of pictures. Now you can see that the picture is slightly rotated, so how can we get an insight what is exactly there? We just click on this button and we rotate until we get the right perspective, and you can see now we are rotated by 180 degrees and we can have a look how it looks like actually there. So what do we see? It appears to what we have guessed, meaning a place for people maybe to sit, relax and eat. However, this suggests and looks like there should be an entrance about here, maybe with a less strict entry policy. Now, if we zoom out, we can see that the map only loads us for high quality image in a certain area. So let's just look at it like this. And you can see that it only provides us a high resolution image within the yellow square. Now, there's an interesting trick we can use here. For example, if we move a little bit to the left, that it loads another image. Let's just keep moving. And as you can see, now we get another picture. However, the building is still inside their yellow square. So if we now zoom in here, we can see that the quality is different and also the picture was taken on another occasion. So this is a trick we can use when analyzing a venue. Now the last thing I want to introduce you to is 3D flyover. To use it, we just need to switch to the satellite view. We need to zoom out until we see a little button saying 3D flyover. Okay, now it appears. We just click on it. It will take a few seconds to load. However, we are presented with a different location, so just let's move and let's type in Microsoft Building 37. I think it was 37. I'll click on it. And as you can see, after it loaded, we get another perspective of that building. Also in the lower left part of the screen, we can set the time of the day. For example, we can do, let's say, 8 p.m. Then we can also change the weather. Let's say it's raining. Or we can even switch back to the clear sky. Now, if we zoom in, we are looking for that entrance we were interested in, so let's just move around. Also, I'm moving around with the scroll, I'm just holding it, and I will now zoom in, and we get another perspective of that building. Here we could have a look at the rooftop and see if there are any CCTV cameras on the rooftop. Maybe there are any around the main entrance, so let's just rotate a little bit and zoom in. And for now, we are unable to identify any, but if you combine all the methodology we used throughout the last 2 lectures, we have a look on Google Earth, we have a look via Google Maps, we have a look via Google Street View and then Bing Street View. It enables us to identify the most amount of things without having the physical access to that location. Even though 3D flyover doesn't do the greatest job with our area of interest, it is a good comparison point if we ever have to come up with a plan regarding some building and we are missing how the terrain looks like around there. Now, I encourage you to go now and try out viewing different locations yourself, compare Bing's option against Google's alternative, and that's it for now. I will see you in the next lecture.